So yeah, I guess for everybody watching who doesn't know you, if you want to just give like a quick intro who you are and how you got into the whole nutrition
Yeah,
field.
yeah, for sure. So my name is Rebecca. I am 24. I'm pretty young. I'm living in Texas. I've been born and raised in Texas my whole life. So US based. I got really into fitness and nutrition, listening to podcasts, following people on Instagram, reading books. A very typical intro into health and fitness nowadays in college, maybe. But it was always just, how do I lose weight? How do I lose weight? How do I lose weight? And I found macros, I guess, my sophomore or junior year of college and started learning how to track. I had never had targets for macros specifically made for me before. And so it was through listening to podcasts that I found the company you used to work for. And I actually hired Lisa as my first nutrition coach like 3 years ago, maybe a few years ago at this point. And I remember when I started to work with you and I love the questions. I want to hear like all of the reasoning. I really wanted to figure this stuff out. So I worked with Lisa for about a year. And during that time, got some of my own certifications, devoured all of the resources that Lisa would send me to learn more, and really just
Yeah,
never stopped
I've
from
always
there.
loved your just your general curiosity and desire to learn and know like why are we doing this or would there be a different approach to this
Yeah.
and so on. And I mean, I think basically all nutrition coaches or good nutrition coaches, at least that I know, they have at one point or another had a coach themselves as well, just out of curiosity, knowing how what it's like to be on the other end. And I think that it opens up your eyes to like somebody, even if you think you know something or you might know something technically, if you're the client, it always like feels different too. Or I mean, we're all just human as well. So
Yeah.
I love that that was your entry into it as well. And I when I researched a little more, you know, what you do now and how your work I guess is or what you specialize in, I really like how you just said, you know, I want to work with anybody, everybody, your girl next door, your, you know, average normal kind of person. But the ones who are not just happy with looking mediocre, with, you know, being average weight or whatever it according to the census, but those who want more out of life, out of their own physique, and just know like I know I'm capable of more. I know my body can look better than that. So yeah, if you want to tell me just a little bit more about, you know, what kind of people you work with and what their main struggles really are.
Yeah, for sure. So you hit the nail on the head. We work with all kinds of people. I like to say that our demographic is less about what you do or what you look like, and it's far more people who just know that there's more available to them and they want to figure it out. So we're really big on not just giving the macros or giving the workouts, but the explaining why. And here's why this is going to work. Here's why this is what we're assigning for you. We're really, really big on that education aspect because I think that's ultimately the game changer for everyone. When you know why it's working, no one can take that away from you. You won't lose the progress. You won't rebound. You won't have to hire another coach after. Like, you're good to go if you get it. And I think ultimately that's everyone's end game is having that sense of control over their body. I remember there would be times in my life where I would lose weight, but I felt so out of control of it. Like, I didn't know why the weight came off that time. I didn't know if it would stick. And so having that sense of control of, I know why the weight came off, or I know why I put the muscle on, and I know it's staying, I think is the game changer. So to give you some numbers, we do tend to work with typically women from ages 25 to 55 is probably our average. And yeah, it's just your everyday woman. It's students, it's people who work a 9 to 5, it's moms, and it's just people who know that there's more out there for them and they want
I love
that sense
it.
of control
Yeah,
over
and
their
I think you
body.
said something really good,
Yeah.
the education piece. They don't say for nothing education drives
Yeah.
compliance. Like if you know why your
Yeah.
coach is increasing your carbs or giving you a prescription with higher fats or whatever, then you're like, well, why are we doing this? And if you get nothing but like, oh, that's how it is, or that's how it's supposed to be, then you're like,
Mhm.
well, I don't like that. You know, it doesn't make sense. But once you understand,
Yeah,
oh, I'm having a higher carb prescription because I'm more of an active person, or I want to like, you know, I build muscle
yeah,
at the same time, or I have a higher fat prescription because my hormones are kind of out of whack and I'm trying to restore my cycle at the same time or whatever, and I've been eating too little for too long. I think that, as you say, it can be definitely a game changer. And so, I mean, since you work with such like a
yeah.
broad, like I guess everybody's kind of like a normal person, but still from all different jobs and ages and so on. Like, is there a common theme in terms of this is what they're struggling with altogether?
For sure, for sure. So I found that most of our clients are struggling with
Oh, I love
unlearning
that. Yes.
everything that they've heard so far. And that can be the hardest part of, well, carbs are bad. Carbs are bad. Carbs make me fat, or sugar makes me fat, or craving like extremities and like craving that extreme elimination diet. Um, a lot of times we'll have people say, well, what should I not eat? What should I avoid? Or, oh, I was so bad because I ate pizza over the weekend, or things like that, where it does take a little bit of unlearning. And I think a huge part of that is just developing trust in a coach. And again, that education aspect of, hey, here's why we're not going to cut carbs. And I need you to trust me. But I think that the mindset side of
Mm-hmm.
just kind of unlearning the things that we've been conditioned to believe, I think that also comes alongside with detaching so much value from the scale. A lot of women are scared to see that scale number move. Even if their physique is improving and they're feeling better, if the
Mm-hmm.
scale is up, it makes them nervous. And so I think that mindset side is typically the hardest. And that's a conversation we try and have with our clients pretty early on that, hey, we're not going to make this a miserable experience for you. We're not going to starve you. We're not going to make you run miles and miles. The hardest part is actually just going to be trusting us. So if you can cover that, if you can put your trust in your coach,
Mm-hmm.
ask questions when you're nervous, express that to
I
us,
love it.
then it's going to be a
Yes, I
breeze.
think that is really, really important, the
Mhm.
unlearning and the changing that belief, because so much research is actually showing that what you believe has so much of an impact on like how your body actually reacts. So like if
Mhm.
you are someone who truly believes
For sure.
carbs are terrible for you, even though like physiologically they would be great for you, and then suddenly like your coach gives you a
Mhm.
higher carb approach and you don't understand why, you're not believing it in the process or you're not buying into the process, then your weight might actually go up because of your belief. Or if like vice versa, if someone believes like fats are bad for them, or protein is terrible, protein always makes me bloated, blah 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 blah. Yes, of course, to an extent there's always a little
Yeah,
bit of truth to that, but or not always, but there can be truth to that. But of course, if you believe a certain thing, it's just gonna exacerbate how that shows up in your body. So for sure, you mentioned something really good there,
yeah,
and I think the communication, like clearing that up right away, is super important. And just overall, like when it comes to nutrition, do you find a common theme when it comes to, oh, everybody is tends to be eating too much of this, or everybody doesn't get enough of this and that?
absolutely. Most of our women who
Mm-hmm.
come to us are under eating. And a lot of the time it's because they're already trying to lose weight. And so a typical pattern, and I'm sure this is similar for you as well. And I know this was true for me. I had been trying to lose weight, and so many of our clients are trying to lose weight and it's not working.
Mm-hmm.
So then they reach out to us. But at that point, they're already eating so low or they've been dieting their whole lives. I see this a lot of the time with a lot of our moms who've been trying to lose the baby weight. And so a lot of the times we see women who are under eating and way under
Mm-hmm.
consuming protein. So most of the time, it's one or both. A lot of the times, though, we'll have women who swear that they're dieting. They swear they're only eating, a little amount of calories. But then it's the weekends that do them in because they're restricting so much during the week that they just can't handle it until the weekend. And then they go overboard and then they punish themselves during the week, and it's just that endless cycle. So I
Mm.
think that's probably the most common, is getting women to eat protein, getting women to lift weights, and then just getting women to give themselves permission to eat a little bit more, feel good, be consistent, and really
That's
tackle that
awesome. Yeah, I
mindset
can
component.
definitely see some correlations or some common themes here with some of my clients as well. And I think the saddest
Yeah.
thing for me with the, gonna call them weekend warriors, is, is just that you restrict especially the good stuff so much if you think about it, right? Like, so you're super restricting during the week and then going overboard on the weekends. What does that equate to? It usually equates to vegetables coming short, possibly grains or potatoes or something like that, which is also has so many micronutrients coming short, or even
Yeah.
a good piece of steak every now and then, or salmon. All this is short because during the week you eat nothing but chicken breast and maybe a little bit of oatmeal or some Greek yogurt or whatever, and a piece of fruit here and there. But overall, you're restricting all the good stuff, which also leads to all these other things like poor digestion, poor mood, poor mental health, higher
Yeah.
cravings, and then no wonder you're going over on the weekends. So it's not to your fault. Actually, it's not to
Yeah.
your fault, but your physiologically your body is craving more, but then on the weekend, you're also giving it more of
Yes.
the bad stuff. So it's like less of the good stuff, more of the quote unquote bad stuff. So we're kind of stuck in like a vicious cycle
Right.
there almost. So I think the best thing, as you say, is just giving yourself permission, or almost being encouraged to eat more, especially more of the good stuff during the week, so that you're not feeling like you need to
Yes.
compensate for that on the weekends.
Definitely. And I found with the weekend warriors, that cycle of that binge and restrict, it just
Mm-hmm.
kills your mindset. And similar to what you were saying, it then I found it gets people in that mindset of, I can
Mm-hmm.
never lose the weight, or I'll never have my cool body. And that is a really dangerous truth to speak over yourself, because if you truly start believing that it's not possible for you,
Yes.
it's
Yes.
never going to happen for you. Um, Ever. And that's a conversation we have with our clients. I have one other coach that works with me, and we tell our clients there is one type of person that this process will not work for. And it is the
Yes.
person who's already made up
Yes.
their mind that it's
And
not going to work.
oftentimes, unfortunately, we're not even aware of that being a limiting belief. Oh, I can never lose the weight, or but it is just like that negative self-talk that
Yeah.
creeps in here and there. And I guess one of the things that whole going too high over or too low under and so on also leads to, or actually two of the things that come to mind, is like that poor gut health, and often affected period health or cycle health as well. Is that something that you see with your clients too?
Oh yeah. Especially as far as digestion is concerned, it blows my mind how many people aren't even
Mm-hmm.
aware that they have bad digestion because they just accept it as normal. And digestion's tricky because, everyone's gut is so complex and so different. And there will be things that sit well with someone that don't sit well with another. But man, one of the biggest pieces, and it's true in research, but it still blows my mind in practice with clients, is the impact of stress on the gut. And when we take stress down, when we, do self-care, when we get good quality sleep, when we take rest days, when we eat nutrient dense foods, the way that our gut health
Yes,
improves just blows
yes,
my
that
mind.
I can only say the same thing. Like sometimes also with the scale, like if someone has a more stressful week and then
Yeah.
suddenly the scale is up 2, 3, even I have seen even up to 5, 6 pounds, because just like merely because of
Yeah.
the stress, and then 2, 3 days later you might have like days off of work or whatever, it's down 6 pounds, and you're like, what just happened? It's not just water retention, it's literally like
Yeah.
that inflammation through stress and everything. But yes, oftentimes of course that's accompanied by not being able to go to the bathroom, or having just more bloating, especially of course if people have things like IBS or SIBO, and leaky gut, it's just exacerbated. But aside from like managing the stress, are there particular things that you pay attention to with your clients to help with the gut health? And so, like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. The number one, and this is something I learned in my own health journey the hard
Hmm.
way, artificial sugars. Now, there's nothing terrible about them in and of themselves. They're not going to ruin, make or break your fitness journey, but they are really irritating for some people's guts. And I know for me, when I was, taking that if it fits your macros approach, and I was eating everything sugar free, and I was trying to find all of the hacks to eat my favorite foods, my gut was in such distress. I would bloat. I would have terrible cravings. I would get constipated. I just had terrible gut health. And I wanted to say it was dairy or gluten or, the common foods that people love to eliminate. But it really just took some time working with you and just looking at what am I actually eating and how is it making me feel to see that artificial sugars really weren't sitting well with me, more so sugar alcohols. So things like stevia sit okay, but those sugar alcohols, if you're eating nothing but sugar-free foods all day, it might be hard to feel your best. So that's definitely one. Another is drinking, just drinking alcohol. There's, of course, nothing wrong with alcohol in moderation, but if we're seeing a client who's having maybe a glass or two of wine every night with dinner, and they're also reporting that they've got bloat, they wake up with indigestion, we trial maybe, let's not drink Tuesday night. Let's see how we feel on Wednesday. So alcohol is another one. But honestly, one of the biggest things, and it's less about a specific food, and it's just more so back to those weekend warriors, is it's people who restrict so much during the week and then they overindulge so heavily on the weekends that their poor gut just doesn't can't
I
catch
like
up,
to think, I mean,
and how
it's a very
distressful.
reasonable comparison, I think, in my opinion. If you think of your gut or your digestive tract as like a pipe system in a house or wherever, you have like days where nothing comes through. So clearly it's difficult for stuff to come out at the other end too, because you're not putting in much. There's not enough to flush it out, so to speak, especially not enough fiber, not enough vegetables, all these good things again.
Yeah.
And then on the weekend, you might have like a 3,000 calorie day or more, which, it's easy to do if you eat pizza and wine and then possibly some dessert, whatever, easy to do. And then you're basically blocking up that digestive tract again, and then probably have
Yeah.
like a almost like a bump or whatever one day, and then a
Yes.
few days later again nothing. Like it's just, it makes sense as opposed to having like a steady flow of the good stuff where the pipes can, because pipes don't
Yes.
necessarily widen all the time. They don't adjust and go and then narrow again. They are what they are. Of course, there's a little bit of leeway, but yeah, I think that's a really good point with the highs and lows for sure.
Yeah, and it's stressing on the body, and if you're it's terrible for your energy and just all around. Would not recommend starving and then overindulging so deeply. But we have had a couple of clients who come to us and they express that they've always struggled with gut health, and that's
Mm.
just the way it is for them. Maybe they should take something. We get asked a lot about gut supplements, and we always say we can visit that down the line. What we're first going to focus on is let's eat nutrient dense foods. So even having a goal of like one color, I want green or red or orange at every meal, and we'll see how that goes. 9 times out of 10, just eating more fruits and vegetables during the day improves their gut health, their bowel movements,
Very true.
right
Yes, I
off the
can
bat.
definitely say something similar from personal experience and from clients as well most of the time. The other thing, yeah, was I guess period health or cycle health. I'm curious about that too, if that's something that you work on with your clients.
Yeah, definitely. We always ask them to make sure that we're aware of when their cycle's occurring, when they're on their period. It helps us remind them when we see things like scale fluctuations or cravings increase that, hey, these things are to be expected, they're totally normal. But to also make sure that our clients know that a nutrition and a fitness journey is not just about your food, but your period health is so important, your gut health, and all of the things. So fortunately, we don't have too many clients who come to us without a period, with amenorrhea or anything, which is good. But we do really work with our clients who do experience some irregularity in their cycles. Again, on just the basics. We want nutrient dense foods. We track their iron. We make sure that we're good there. We keep an eye on magnesium. But for a lot of these clients, if we're facing irregular periods, a lot of the times we look at training volume. Are they overtraining? Are they getting, 15,000 steps a day and working out and in a calorie deficit, and are they a parent and they're in school? We work on lowering stress on the body. We work on how much sleep are we getting? Are we eating food that supports our body, or are we weighing ourselves down with the pizza, the wine, and things like that? And I think it really surprises people that it's just the basics. 9 times out of 10, it's eating nutrients, resting, strength training,
Yes,
but with
yes.
enough time to recover.
Yeah, especially,
And
I guess,
that.
especially on the nutrient
Mhm.
front. I do think that when it comes to admitting to yourself, hey, I don't eat salmon every single day, or I'm not gonna have Brazil nuts every single day, perhaps I should be supplementing with XYZ. Especially if you're coming from a previously depleted stage. So like what I often see is people who have been taking or have been on hormonal birth control for 10, 15, 20 years, right? And then trying to come off it or even still on it, not recognizing that the pill does deplete the body more of certain nutrients or just prevent absorption more. So that's not to say like I mean that's something everybody has to decide for themselves what sort of or if they want to use any kind of hormonal birth control, but just recognizing that it has an effect on your body and perhaps you need to either eat differently or supplement more. I think that that's definitely a good part. But for sure, nothing beats the basics. Nothing beats sleep, whole foods, and the right amount of exercise for sure. And I mean, even though most of the people watching this are going to be in like a sort of similar clientele as what you've described, or probably struggling with some of the similar things, but if there are maybe like 2 or 3 main recommendations, or maybe even unusual recommendations that people possibly don't hear so much about, is there anything that you'd like to pass on?
For sure, for sure. So I know you've already heard us talk so much about the basics, the basics, the basics. One little encouragement that I want to give you, and I mean this with all of the love in my heart. This is a conversation that I've had like on my own Instagram before and on my podcast as well, is none of us are so special that the basics don't work for us. The human body is the human body. And so tip number one I'd give you is truly, truly base your diet around whole foods. I have a sweet tooth. I have some kind of dessert every night, whether it be a piece of chocolate, whether it be like a small thing of ice cream or something. I love sweets. And still, I make sure that 90%, 95% of the foods I eat every single day are as close to a whole food source as possible. And I've never felt my best. I've never had such low cravings for sugar. It truly is what your body needs to eat nutrient dense foods. The next would be in terms of your lifestyle, just to make things as much of a routine as possible. I know for myself, I've just gotten married and traveled and moved to a different city, and having some semblance of a routine where I always go for a morning walk. I'm always in bed at this hour. I always put my phone away, by this time. That's been a real, real help in making sure that I don't totally disregard the practices that I've worked to cultivate. And so finding some kind of rhythm, it supports your health and fitness goals, it supports your mental health, and gives you that kind of sanity to cling to. And then my third tip might be a little bit, I guess, counterintuitive, since I do encourage my clients to lift weights so much, but just get in any kind of movement that feels good. This is something I just posted about on my Instagram yesterday of when I was traveling for so long, I didn't have access to a gym. And so my number one thing was I'm moving for 30 minutes every day. I'm doing something. And it might not have been crushing the gym or hitting a PR. It might have just been going for a walk, go to the mall, walk around the mall. But just moving your body is so good for your mental health. It's so good for your physical health. And it's so underrated, just getting outside and getting some fresh air. So I think those would probably just be my little
I
tidbits
love
to
it.
leave
Yes,
with the
absolutely.
viewers.
Especially with the first one, sometimes we think like, oh no, for me, this, like, I'm someone I can get by on 5 hours of sleep, or I'm someone, I I get plenty of protein. The rest doesn't matter whether, you know, I get my veggies and stuff like that. But basics apply to everybody. So I couldn't have said it any better. I definitely very much
Yeah.
appreciate your time today. And I think just a really down to earth, as you say, like approach that applies to anybody, but still gives, you know, normal people above average results, because the truth is the average person doesn't do
Yeah,
those basics. The average person does what's considered normal,
that's
which
right.
is, you know, eating cereal or a sandwich for lunch, or being a couch potato. So thank you very, very much for your time, Rebecca. I have very much enjoyed talking to you. And yeah, I'll be tagging your social media below as well. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Awesome. Yes,
Thank
you too.
you.
It was
Bye.
great to see you, Lisa.